magnificent Mr. Patrick Irvin. How you doing today, Patrick?
I'm alright. I'm excited.
Yes, gotta be hyped today. Yeah. Well, I guess, Patrick, tell our listeners why we a little bit hyped today. Go ahead.
Man, for y'all that don't know, we got a special kind of celebrity in the building today.
Yes, sir.
Professor Carlton Jones. Everybody, for those of you that don't know who he is, you need to climb out from under that rock you've been under, unplug your ears, open your eyes, dig that crust out of them, and pay attention.
Yes. Well, let's get y'all a little more acquainted with Professor Carlton Jones. Okay. Professor Carlton Jones is the creator of the What About Us lecture series, which is focused on informing and improving the academic, socioeconomic, and political conditions of the African diaspora, both in America and abroad. Jones has presented lectures at Black and Noble Bookstore, as well as in New York City and in schools in the Philadelphia School District. In addition, he has taken part in community meetings as a panel member on forums at Temple University and Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. He also is the host of From the Front Porch with Professor Carlton Jones radio program on the A Legacy of a Nation's Blog Talk Radio Network, and also regularly appears on 900 AM The Word in Philadelphia, and he also is on the Edge show with Katie Barnett and friends on the Blog Talk Radio show, as well as a featured guest on the State of the Black Parent Blog Talk Radio show. Professor Carlton Jones resides in Philadelphia. He has worked within the Philadelphia public school system for 10 years and with at-risk urban youth for the past 20 years. Upon obtaining his master's degree in social studies citizenship, Jones worked vigorously in the Philadelphia public school system as a professor. He also teaches courses in the area of community leadership. An accomplished lecturer, writer, and public speaker, Jones has become a beacon of hope within the community as he strives to continue his focus concerning the improvement of the socioeconomic conditions of the African-born Americans as well as descendants of the African diaspora. He continues to work with at-risk youth, helping them to develop and utilize critical thinking skills through his lectures, workshops, and community activism campaigns. We present to you all Professor Carlton Jones. How you doing today, Professor?
I'm doing well. Peace and blessings to you guys, and thank you, brothers, for having me on the show this evening.
We really appreciate you being on here because we just can feel it in the air that we're going to learn a lot today. So we really appreciate you being here.
Feelings mutual. For sure.
And you know what? I got to jump in real quick. Because I got to tell everybody, Professor Carlton Jones is somebody I look up to. I watch all his YouTube videos. You know, I read almost everything he puts out. I want to talk a little bit about these lectures, where you can find him at, because they left that out. He left that out.
You know, I left that for you.
You know, I got you. You know, it's we working together, entanglement. You know, metaphysics. Got you.
Yes, sir.
What About Us? You can find the professor at WAUwhataboutus.com. That's WAUwhataboutus.com. And if you go to the site, you can go ahead and you can pick up his What About Us Live lecture series, the Poor Etiquette lecture series, the Who's Next lecture series, and the Chestnut Checkers lecture series, in addition to the What About Us shirts. And you can vibe to the music, as I often do. They got about 4 or 5 beats in rotation. You know, you just go on the site, they queue up, and you go. You know, I practice my freestyling over those beats sometimes, you know, get my chops in. The professor will also be presenting a new lecture on November 22nd, I think. That's right, Professor?
Yes, sir.
November 22nd, called Solutions, at Black and Nobel's bookstore, the famous lecture bookstore, black-owned bookstore out there in Philly. Definitely, y'all go over to his website, check him out. Check out the YouTube channel, Professor Carlton Jones. And if you in the Philly area, if you in the Northeast region, or if you got it like that and you live wherever, head on over there to Black and Nobel and listen to him November 22nd. All right, I'm done.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So go ahead. I mean, you already got warmed up, man. So go ahead and kick it off with the first question, man.
Well, you know what? You're right. So let's go ahead. Professor
Yes,
Carlton Jones. Explain to the people why it is that you chose education as a means to affect whatever ends you're trying to achieve. Why did you pick the educational field?
Well, I chose education because it was through the teachings and through my relationships with educators that put me in a position to assist the members of my community in the best way possible. And what I mean by that is I saw the effect. I suffered some traumatic experiences as a youth, and it was the relationships that I had built with my educators that sort of gave me an understanding of how powerful it can be for an educator to reach out and touch somebody and to make a difference in the person's life, especially someone who is young and influenceable. And that's one of the reasons why I chose education. And another reason is I look at our community, and I know we're going to get into this a little later on, but this is just a little tease for later on. And I see that there's so many deficiencies with the way our children are taught that I want to reach them in a way that they actually get the most out of education so that they can know the most about themselves, where they come from, and what we must do to succeed as a people. And I'm speaking strictly for the black community. I make no apologies about whom I serve. I serve the black community and the African diaspora internationally. Every other group has vanguards. Every other group has caretakers. Every other group has resources. And it's a shame in this day and age that we've been made to feel as though we're peddling some type of hustle, or we're playing on the backs of some other type of system, or when we try to empower and enrich our own.
Okay. I mean, that's incredible, and that's exactly what we need. And I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the passion that you bring towards your pursuit, because that is exactly what we need if we're going to, move to the next level as a whole, as a community, as a nation of people. So I commend you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Much obliged, brother.
My question for you, and this sparked by reading your bio, and I read it, but I kind of want to hear it, from you, is, can you explain to us what about us and why you chose to create it?
There was an incident that occurred while I was a student at Bloomsburg State University here in Pennsylvania, where a cousin of mine was murdered. And an elder who I was working with for the summer, I had interned in the Multicultural Center at Bloomsburg University, and an elder by the name of Tom Nixon put a charge on to me. He said, listen, man, you've been through so much, and we're dealing with children right now that are dealing with similar situations. Why don't you put together a program and or a project so that we can do a workshop and actually try to make some real change? So in putting together the workshop, I started to do some research on the specific incidents that was occurring within the black community, and this is in 1995. This is around 1995, and I started asking the questions. I said, everything that's in the news is about every other community, but what about us? Nobody talks about our issues, and when they talk about our issues, it's never from our point of view. So, that's where the title "What About Us" came from. And it was a workshop that was started with a group of students from John Harris High School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And they visited the campus, and that was the initial group. Now I went on to do it for the Sankofa conference the next year. And it's funny because one of the people in the audience that afternoon was none other than Dr. Umar Johnson. So we had a chuckle about that about a year ago because we hadn't crossed paths since. So we sort of chimed on that over the internet about a year ago. But that was the focus, and ever since then it's been about building and uplifting the community, and it's expanded to not just talk about the youth, but about the future of our people. And we need to, in a society that looks down upon or frowns upon us speaking about our culture, speaking about doing for self, speaking about enriching our history or even discussing our history, I think the focus needs to now be, what about us? What about our issues? What about our charges? What about our goals? What about our ambitions? What about our struggle? So that's where "What About Us" came from.
Okay.
Now, you know what? You just said something, and actually we just got a question. I just got messaged the question. And we're gonna get to the question, don't worry. But we want to get to it a little bit later, because for right now there's a question that I really want people to hear the answer to, which is so critical when we start talking about people. And you mentioned the future, and you mentioned building, and you mentioned a whole lot of things. Tell the people why, when they hear you, they're going to hear you talking about the youth so much. Tell the people why it's important to you to uplift the minds of the black youth that are out there.
Thank you for that question. The reason why it's so important for me to uplift our youth is because without our youth, we don't have a future. And that's just, as bluntly as we can put it. Every other community builds and plants seeds, deposits for the future to maintain their way of life, to maintain their culture, to maintain their civilization, except for us. We're the only ones that pass down legacies of welfare instead of legacies of entitlements, legacies of enrichment, legacies where we can build financial institutions, where we can build educational, academic institutions, where we can build legal institutions. We're the only ones that don't do that, and I think that is a detriment to our society, and it's imperative that we stop that cycle. And it's hard to stop the cycle when people have been set in their ways for 30, 40, 50 years of doing things over and over. So the most effective way to affect change in our community is to go to the youth who haven't been trained yet, who haven't been hit as hard with dealing with the full force oppression that comes from dealing with racism and white supremacy. Our youth is the key to our salvation. If we don't invest in our youth, then we will continue the Willie Lynch syndrome, where there's that disconnect between generations, and then where will we start to build? If our generation, and I'm 40 years old, if my generation had taken care of business, then the generation 10 years ago, who, young brothers who in their late 20s, early 30s, and brothers and sisters, they would have a better opportunity. They would have better opportunities today. Our communities wouldn't be so riddled with crime and with poverty and with invaders coming to our neighborhoods. committing crimes of economic drain, where they're draining all the resources and they're taking them back to their communities. So we have to start to plant that seed, and we have to plant it with the youth. And not only do we have to plant it with the youth, we have to protect them as well, because they're fearless. But the problem is they don't have direction. And instead of offering them direction, a lot of us elders are pointing our fingers at them, blaming them for situations that they didn't control, they didn't contribute to, they just happened to be born into. So, I think it's imperative that we correct that, and that's why I like that's why I take my charge directly to the youth. That's why I go into the community centers, the high schools. I go to the corners. If I see brothers standing on the corner and I recognize one or two of them, then I'm in that circle. Even sometimes if I don't recognize them, I'll spark a conversation with the young brothers and try to build. If I see people out in the street fighting, I have to do something about that, because especially teenagers and youth, because these are my people, these are my children. I may not have birthed them, but I'm damn sure going to do something about the way they turn out. And I think that's if more of our people felt that way, our youth and our communities will be in much better shape than they are right now.
I agree. And, I appreciate that approach that you're taking to the youth. More of a hands-on, in-your-face approach with the youth, because we often hear people saying that our youth have no one to look up to, when those people themselves can be ones that the youth can look up to if they actually took that extra step. And, like you said, to become a part of the circle, to walk up to them and spark conversation and build with them. We appreciate that, because that's what we need in our community.
And can I say something about that last point you just made?
Yes.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves, is when I hear people complaining about what's going on or what's not going on, and they're not presenting themselves as part of the solution. They're presenting themselves as outside of the bubble of what's going on. And that's one of the issues that has driven me to really focus and channel a lot of my energy towards the youth, is because when I have these lectures, when I go out and speak at places like Black and Nobel, I get a lot of love. But, it's a lot of amens from the crowd, which is good. But when I go out to these high schools and speak, the youth are like, okay, well, I'm ready to get my hands dirty. Let's go. What can we do? I had youth who volunteered to stay at the school when half of their teachers, 75% of their teachers, called out sick one day because it was the Friday before a holiday. And these students stayed after school on a Friday an hour and a half longer than school just to soak up whatever I had to give them.
Wow.
So that's the charge right there, and that's the level of commitment we get from them when we put that effort forward and we actually meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we appreciate that. Now the question I have for you now is, what has been the biggest challenge that you faced thus far?
I have to chuckle at that, because my biggest challenge is, even though I'm dealing with the youth, I still have faith in the fact that I still have hope for the elders too in the community. And my biggest challenge is convincing them that they can be great, that they can be independent of this system of racism, white supremacy, that we can all work together and build this mighty black nation, nationally and internationally, locally and abroad, that we can start to love and depend on, work with one another, that we can create our own business centers. It's basically getting black people to believe it themselves, that they could be free of the milk of nausea that they receive from racism and white supremacy, that they can be free of the nanny state, and to convince them that they themselves have this power, that it's not just me, it's all of us. I'll give you a prime example. We control our information. We always control, and I have a saying that goes like this. we are always worried about what they are doing to us. But why should they change anything they are doing to us when it doesn't benefit them to undo it? So we have to stop worrying about them as much and start worrying about what we can do. We can share information. There's no reason why the people who are in the urban intellectual discussion groups aren't sharing the urban intellectual websites, aren't sharing the story. There's nothing stopping it but fear. And the fear of standing out against white supremacy, the fear of standing out on our own, and that's the biggest issue that I have, is the biggest problem, helping us overcome the fear of standing up to white supremacy and then stepping away from it.
Man, that's got me thinking, because that's a huge major level issue that we have in the black community in general, is standing up and actually doing what the hell we need to do to make the changes we need to make real. And that's just real right there. I mean, that's something, because like you said, in the urban intellectual groups, there's nothing stopping those people from sharing that content. And all of the pro-black groups, the Black History Suppressed group, the Capitalist in Kentucky group, all of those groups, there's enough black people in all these groups to make an impact right there off social media alone.
Right.
I mean, just think about it. Everybody is connected to a different region of the country. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person with over 1,500 Facebook friends. That's the only person that's connected to over 10,000 people just based on the different groups that I'm in. And, just imagine if every single person is an article or an editorial was produced by the urban intellectuals and everybody shared. Now we're talking about, that's the major media story. We become our own major media outlet, but we have to believe it can be done. Now, when it comes to smut, when it comes to frivolous entertainment and activities and things of that nature, we have no problem with doing that. We have no problem with the buffoonery. But we have an issue when it comes to promoting real conscious information that's going to make people think, and it's going to make people understand that you have taken a position on this particular issue, that you're not wavering the line, you're not sitting on the fence, that you're actually out there, and this is a statement that you believe in, so you believe in it enough to share with others. And a lot of us are afraid because, and this is true. This is why we have to learn about racism, white supremacy, and how it works. Now it's to the point where people have been put in places and positions where you have a mortgage, you have a car note, you have college loans you have to pay back, all these different bills. So it's tied into your employment, and your employment, your bosses can look into your social media sites and they can fire you now based on what you post. And a lot of times they don't care about your buffoonery. You could post all sorts of sexual deviant things, anything you want, but the second you stand up, and it's specifically geared towards standing up for the black community, the second you question racism, white supremacy, now you're getting called into HR. Now you're getting having several meetings. Now you're getting written and verbal warnings and things of that nature. So they know how to use that fear. And until we understand that we can build these same institutions in our communities, that we can build these same business districts in our community, that we can build our own Wall Street again. We can build our own Greenwich Village. We can build all those different things again if we believe in ourselves and we start to work together. But that fear and actualizing it and then putting that power in our hands, it's a terrible thing. And I also believe that it's because we've been socially conditioned to never truly see what that outcome is. Look at the movies, you look at the media, they've never shown you a story of a successful black revolution.
Right.
Well, you know what? That is correct. And we're running a little low on time, so for all you guys out there listening, If you want to connect with Professor and ask him some questions, you're going to have to call in, and we have our section after we finish broadcasting where we allow the people that are on the line to chop it up with the professor a little bit. I will ask some of the questions that I'm getting before, and we will record the answers so you can hear them on the archive show on the playback. But with that being said, I want to ask you, if you were president for one day, if you had, we won't even say president, we'll say if you were absolute commander-in-chief, all-powerful czar of Black America, what would you do, and what would your message be to Black Americans?
Okay, to Black Americans. Because if you would ask that question about president, I'd have some different ideology. I would, if I were in that position, I would command all Black people to commit to economically enfranchising one another, and through and not only economically franchising one another, but that would just be the beginning, to so that we can build our own institutions and so that we can create our own capital. One of the biggest things, I'm really huge on reparations, because I believe that our community was purposely placed in disrepair. And in order to repair that, there's a price that needs to be paid, and it needs to be paid by the people who did the damage. But we're never going to be in that position until we can actually show up at the table and say, well, listen, collectively, we're going to move our assets this way, and we're going to block all these other issues, all these other avenues for you, so that we can get the things we need to repair the damage that you did to us and our ancestors. So I would tell Black people to consolidate all of our efforts, to aggregate all of our efforts, and for us to go into the mindset of segregation, Jim Crow, where we weren't allowed to spend our money in white institutions, because that was the most successful era of Black history in this country, when Blacks weren't allowed to spend their money in those dominant society areas and avenues. So we had to spend our money in our communities, and our money would bubble. That money would bounce hundreds of times. It wouldn't leave the community for over a year. We need to get to that point, because it's only when you aggregate the money that you start to accrue and accomplish true wealth.
That's correct. That is what we need. We need economic empowerment, and we need it bad, but we need the understanding of the economic empowerment. So, that you're correct. You're correct.
Yeah, that's only the beginning. Because with that comes the education, and not that you would need a degree for this, because I believe in education, and you can learn education walking down the street as much as you can learn sitting in the classroom. People can. With all the access that we have to tools nowadays and social media, if we ever stopped getting past playtime and started to utilize and access the social media for the tool it was created to be used for and utilized for, and we can we can learn universities worth of scholarship just based on YouTube videos and items that have been placed in publication that are free of charge. All you have to do is download the information. So, we would, but the security of wealth would be the start, because with the wealth we reduce a lot of the poverty, and then once we reduce the poverty and we start to empower and build within one another, then we can start building walls in our community so that the money doesn't get out. And I'm talking about, when you go to Chinatown, they have big pagodas and all sorts of things, so they wall their communities in. Literally, there are walls around Chinatown in Philadelphia, so you can't even walk into a side street. So, and they block off all commerce, and they make sure they only do business within their own communities. So that's how we have to start thinking. We have to start building communities, business centers, economic centers where we can, where our money is spent and then is aggregated back into the community. Now, I'm not going to put my money in a business where the brother or the sister is thinking about getting a Lexus with my money. No. I'm thinking about you employing more blacks. I'm thinking if I go to your corner store and I buy something from you, you're going to go to a black retailer and re-up on some toilet paper and paper goods and supplies that we're going to need. That's what I'm talking about. If you have a car, if you own a car, if you have to get a car, you get a car when you pay for it in full. That way we're not having we're not contributing to wasteful spending, to rebuy up all the homes in our community so that we can end gentrification, and to start to build our community centers so that we can have Saturday school programs and activities in the community where the whole community comes out and we start to share that love again. We start to build with one another again, and have that type of setting where that love is there. And when that love is there, it'll generate a lot more of the congruity that we're going to need to build and move forward. And let's learn from the past, because when we build it, we're going to have to protect it. So we're going to need a militia.
Yeah, you got to protect your assets. Everybody else does it. So.
Boom, boom, boom. With that, what is it? It's 8 o'clock, right, Joe?
Yep.
All right, everybody. So if you really want to ask the professor a question and hear his answer, you got to tune in for the questions that I got messaged in. If you're not on the line when Joe say go, Joe say go. See, I'm thinking about the raps already. I'm on it. If you're not on the line when Joe say go, you won't hear it. Sorry, bro.
All right. Well, we thank you all for tuning in to today's show with Professor Carlton Jones, dropping these jewels on us and coming with the passion and the enlightenment. Professor, we greatly appreciate your presence, your information, your passion, and your work in the community, and we appreciate your time and you being here. So thank you very much.
The feel is mutual, brother. Ashe. Always peace and blessings, and I love the black community, and not only will I die for the black community, I'll kill for the black community. So people need to recognize, this is serious, and the work is never done. So with all that said and done, I know you got to move on to another segment, but I say, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings.
But before you go, could you give us your website one more time before you go?
Oh, yes. That's What About Us at www.whataboutus.com. Once again, there's What About Us at www.whataboutus.com. And you can go and find links to all my lectures, to the YouTube channel. You can find links to the social media sites. We also have we have the T-shirts available, the lecture series available, and let me explain quickly, if I can, why I'm doing these things. I'm doing these things because we need to generate revenue for projects that are to come. There was a situation that occurred, and I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with what happened to our brother Mike Brown in Ferguson, but there were other situations all over the country. And even if you look at what happened to the brother John Crawford up in Ohio, and that probably was actually worse than what happened to Mike Brown, but the outcry was was more so for what happened in Ferguson because of the response of the people. But we didn't have the assets to get and lead those situations. And the people that should have been able to put boots on the ground couldn't afford to put boots on the ground because of our lack of finances. And I'm just keeping it real. And when we put these projects together, a lot of times it's not with the full consent or the blessing of the community that we're trying to represent and save. So, when I put the T-shirts for sale and I've had the DVDs for sale, it's because I don't just want a contribution from you. I want you to have an investment. I want you to get something from the actual your contributions. And in addition to that, I want you to help do your part in funding and fueling this revolution, because as the brothers and sisters often say, especially on this network, is the revolution will not be televised, but it must be funded.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this session and move on to our question and answer session. So we appreciate everybody for hopping aboard the Freedom Train, and we'll see you guys next week.